Okay, we're set.
Shutters.
So anything you say from now on is going to be on record.
Okay.
So tell us about your families and its history in town.
Okay, I'm Pauline Zyberle Sheridan. My family has been here since 1925. We're the second owners of the house that we're in that was built in 1877. Before that, we're the Cromartie family.
Cromartie's owned it before you?
Yeah, his family owned it.
Art
They
Cromartie?
well, Warren Cromartie.
Later on.
I keep in touch with
Yeah.
him and his wife. They're in Alaska. But yeah, that's who my family evidently bought it from. My father, I guess, was one of the original Germans that first settled here when it was almost an all Dutch and German community. Mm-hmm. You know more of that. You're closer to that.
What year did he come to Rochelle Park?
I believe he came right here from Germany in 1925. My father was born here. My aunt was born in Germany. My father was the first in his family born here. Okay. And he's never lived anywhere. He always said he was born here and he'd die here, and he did. He was day one till the end. But I don't know what you really want me to say. So
tell us, I'm always hearing about Florida Jones. So how about, I'd love to hear stories about
Okay,
her.
Mrs. Jones was a person that a lot of the kids were afraid of, but she was the sweetest little old lady. She welcomed the kids, enough so that in the back of her yard there was a circular pond, and along it she made sure there were cement little bridges, but also cement seating so that kids could put their skates on and go skating. She'd bring out cookies and everything for you.
Goldfish were in the pond?
There were goldfish in the pond, not when we were skating so much, but there was also a house in the back that they called the doll house. It had had a fire, and after the fire was there, the fireplace that was there remained, and she had them leave it. She would actually put little fires in it so the kids could stay warm, and we would bring her stuff all the time. My mother would bake. We would bring her things over the holidays. House family did the same thing. If you knew her, you absolutely loved her, but some of the people were afraid of her. She was a kind of a frail-looking, old,
little tiny lady,
and she was powerful. But the property was gorgeous. The house was always beautiful. It was an amazing house.
It was a big piece of.
Now there were two houses there. One was set way back that Alinos lived in.
Yeah.
Then there was another one to the left of that. That was her house.
I lived in the one Lino owned.
Two of them.
Before?
There were two of them.
No,
after?
while Lino owned it, I lived
He
in
lived in the
that house.
house
No,
that
there
Lino
were
owned.
another couple.
That I
before
sent you
Lino.
pictures of.
Yeah.
You have pictures of that
Yes.
one that Mickey gave me. The that house is 175. That was set all the way back. That, as far back as I can remember, the family I remember the furthest back in that house were the Shells, Dr. Shell and his wife, and they had a daughter my age, Frances, who there was a mishap with a can that had gasoline in it or something, and it caught on fire. And whether the kids kicked it to get out of the way or whatever, Frances suffered from it and did not survive it.
Yeah.
And she's only about 3 years old. And then the family didn't live there much longer. But he was, I don't know what kind of doctor he was, but they were there for a long time. They were good neighbors, a large family. And I believe it was a garage that was gone, and then another garage was built. And then the Alinos bought it and lived there for a while. Then they snowbirded to Florida.
I think Mickey said he moved there 1958, is what Mickey told me.
I think it was later than that, because Frances was 3 years
He
old.
said they were
and
living
she
in
was,
Lodi.
They were in Lodi before that, but Frances was the same age as me, and I'm born in 55. I didn't want to really do that. But, and she died when she was 3 years old, so they were still there then. But Mickey graduated school in Lodi too, I believe. And then he taught here. He's one you'd really want to talk to as well.
Who's this now?
Mickey Alino. Mike Alino, he was a teacher in
I've
Maryland
written
school.
him, and
He's dead.
he hasn't. What?
He's deaf. He
He's
had
deaf,
a stroke and he's deaf.
Okay.
This is what
I
we
written
recorded.
one of the Alinos
You
recently.
can
The teacher.
bleep some of this stuff out, right? Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Next door to Grandma Jones's
Mr.
was
Michaels.
Norm Michaels.
Mr.
Norm Michaels lived in that old house there.
Yep.
Mike the janitor, we called him Mike the janitor.
I didn't know him that way.
Was
He used to
Norm
walk with
Michaels.
his dog all the time, come down and visit my
The little
grandfather.
guy, he was a little short guy.
Little short.
Probably
guy.
5'3",
And he was
5'4".
He was good friends with Mako's father.
He worked as a janitor for Midland School for years.
Yeah.
So I remember him when I went to Sacred
The
Heart.
house is the same as it was.
Yeah.
That's the house.
Gas fixtures
With
are
the window
still,
open up top.
gas fixtures
You
are
were
still
saying that.
active in the walls.
Yeah, the squirrel opening up on
Yeah.
the top. I don't know if anybody's there anymore.
I
You
saw them
pass
working
it.
on the fascia boards about
Oh, are
a
they?
month ago,
Okay.
so they must be
I
planning on
haven't
staying
seen
there.
the people.
Yeah.
It was an Asian family that's
Yes.
been
Yeah.
living there, but they'll nod in that, but not much conversation.
Yeah.
But
The Asian
that's a
family owns
beautiful
the whole
one.
corner.
Yes. Yeah.
Do they own the whole?
The whole complex,
Okay.
all the way to Ore Electric or wherever,
Really?
Bartola Electric.
Bartola.
That
Yeah.
whole complex is owned by that guy. He owns where the community bank used to be.
Where the community was and
And all the barber
Gallows used
shops
to
and
be,
stuff like that, yeah.
and
Gallows,
And I still
A&P,
remember
all
Gallows had the
that.
soda. It had
Yeah.
it was like a typical old drugstore.
Yeah.
You had a
Drugstore,
counter
yeah.
that had ice cream sodas.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Milkshakes.
Because you also had the luncheonette.
Goldstein's was
Well,
a
we used to
Pieces
walk-
over here, and
And the A&P or whatever
Yeah.
it was up the street. We used to go up there and
Yeah.
get devil dogs. And they used to have a fan and wooden floors and sawdust all over the floors. I remember that as a
Yeah,
kid.
the A&P was there, was a tiny thing.
And the
Had
post office
coffee
around the
grinders
corner.
up on the counter.
we have
with
one
the-
picture of it.
The
Sorry.
red, whatever they called it, the red and the green and the yellow coffee, whatever, I guess on how they grind it, I guess, or something.
Probably.
Was the.
And the bakery.
Atlantic Pacific.
You had Schneider, Elsie Schneider was across,
Was
the,
across
street,
the street.
Yes.
Oh,
And then it became
Schneider.
Fischel's.
Herman
Yeah.
Schneider was the.
I didn't know him. Elsie
Herman
would
went
tell
back
me
to
all the
Germany.
time, I made your mother's and father's wedding cake. And they got married in a hurricane.
Yeah.
And she always remembered that. And then you had the deli next door. You had Reinhardt's.
Reinhardt's
And
Deli. yeah.
actually-
Well, before
they're
Reinhardt
still here in
was Charlie
town.
Stern.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Parents owned the deli. You know Charlie Stern?
The name is familiar. but-
Married, what was her name? Married Evans Lazara's wife was Terry
Oh, yeah.
Fazioli or something like that. Well, he married the younger sister.
You're picking my brain here.
So that was Charlie Stern. He lived in the deli next to, and lived next door to the Snyders. Remember Helen Snyder lived there? If you know the name?
No.
Helen Snyder had a certain noted. She was
Careful.
highly noted in the town, and the younger brother was Bobby Snyder, who changed his name to Bobby Wills. Did you know Fred Wills?
No, I don't
Fred
think
Wills was
so.
on the ambulance squad.
Do not think so. Anybody from the corner there that I still remember, like up in the apartments above, where the post office
Yeah,
was and all
post
that,
office was-
would have been Mako's, Reardon's, Dr.
So the post office
Langhart.
there at one time.
Yeah.
The post office was on
It is on the corner
Railroad
building in
Avenue.
Oak?
Remember?
Well, it was near where Scruffs is, right in that group.
Oh,
in
really?
there.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and then they moved down here.
The post office was where the karate place is.
All
In
right.
that big building that, the 1927, I'm sorry, 1892, they built the train station.
Okay.
Okay, there was a freight house next door.
Right.
Freight house is gone today, where they used to store the speeder for the,
Okay.
you know what they call a speeder, hand car.
Okay. Yeah.
And they'd throw the mail across. I have the mail bags from
Yeah.
the post office that they threw the mail in. I have them in my garage.
I still have
Donate
boxes I
them
have
if
to
you
look
want.
through if we can get everyone in the room.
But
Yeah,
the post office was across
second,
the
top
street,
floor, though, right?
and there were a couple stores there. One of them was the guy's name was Joe Fontana, who was the barbershop guy there.
Oh God! And who's the shoemaker right next to Mike? Right next to Mr. Michaels, there was a little
Yeah, there was
shoemaker,
in a
and that
garage.
building's gone. It was like a little
Yeah,
garage
it was an
building.
Italian guy. I don't remember his name. He was a little Italian guy. But next door was where the building is today,
Uh huh.
was Busman's Market. That's the
That
name of the place.
I remember that.
Busman's Market. Then it was the A&P.
You know who might
Then it
have
was
pictures of
Gallows.
those?
Then it was Community
Who's that?
Bank.
My cousin Ramalia's.
Okay.
Joey Ramalia is a fireman in town, and his
Ramaglia.
Ramaglia, however you
okay.
want to say. My mother said Ramalia.
Well, you're not
She
Italian.
came from
you wouldn't know.
Gulffield, so that's how she said
Ramaglia.
it.
Ronnie Ramaglia lived across the street from me.
Ronnie
Big
is cousins to them.
Yes.
It's not the same.
No.
Joey's father was Mike, and he was on Crescent, what comes off of Crescent?
El Dorado Court.
Dorado
And it's
and,
El Dorado,
Kenny-
right at the bay.
Kenny Calando lived on El Dorado
There's a
Court.
name I haven't heard in age.
Carol Calando's brother,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who owned the Mousetrap
With Lazara,
with Evans Lazara.
yeah.
Before that, it was Jake Campbell, Jack's
You
Tavern.
go, oh, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's
her-
right.
his
Where's
ex-wife
Jack's
It had a
Tavern?
bowling alley
In the basement.
downstairs.
I was going to ask you about the bowling. Now, there used to be a dance hall and bowling alley
Yeah.
where Jack's Tavern was.
I-
Did your father have any memories of that at all?
I
Was it
I
more-
don't believe my father would, my father was born in 29,
Yeah.
but I don't think he, by
Where
the
was he
time,
born?
here.
In Rochelle Park?
Yeah, he was born here in Rochelle Park.
Where?
The original house I think they were in originally might have been by Susquehanna. May not have been, may have had an apartment. My
One of those
understanding is
apartments
right where he
there?
is where they've been.
Okay, because the house you live in is the Chapano house, right?
No. No. Rochelle Auto Parts, which was across the
Across the
street,
street,
which
yeah.
is now part of Gallows property,
No, the house you live in now,
is Zyberle. Since 1925, maybe 26.
not the Chapano.
No,
okay.
Chapano was directly
I know
across
where
the
the
street.
Chapano were. They had the store across
Right,
the street.
right behind
It was
the
a service
store
station, yeah,
was
and
their
it
house.
Was their house
It was
too on Oak
attached
Street,
to it.
right?
Where Nagels lived
Yeah.
when we were growing up.
Okay, I
John
always thought-
Nagels.
Yes, yeah.
I always thought
Okay,
it
that
was,
house was attached
it was your
to.
mother's house, but it was the Zyberle house. Okay.
Yeah, my mother was across the street. In fact, I
Yes.
think I sent you a picture of my mother in front of the gas
Okay,
pump.
now I understand.
Yes, yeah,
And
you're right.
there's-
And another picture too of them talking with a bunch of other people. Like, who-
Bobby Parker had the
Auto parts.
auto parts there.
Later on.
Later on,
and
there
it
was
was
another guy
wasn't
from
there like a hairdresser
Lodi.
there too, like for a while, like a wig place or
No,
something?
next to it. That
Next to
was
it, okay.
because I worked there. It
All right.
was Carl and Joseph's, and
Okay.
it was Orecchio, Carl Orecchio.
Mhm.
They lived on Chestnut,
Okay.
down toward the as you got toward Berdan,
Brilliant, okay.
and they were a long time.
Who's that?
here. Carl Orecchio. He was a hairdresser
On Chestnut Street?
on Chestnut Street. If that's the
Going
one that
towards
goes down
Berdan.
Berdan,
It was a dead end street when I was a kid.
and it still is.
No.
No.
Before there was no Berdan.
Oh, all right.
It
all
was
right.
the woods.
I don't know then because I know
know,
Berdan there.
I'm-
You're a couple years older than me,
I am.
but
but,
they
yeah,
were.
it was a dead
They were.
end
As a
street.
matter of fact, one
Joe
of the
Egg
first
lived-
cars my
So
my
where
dad
did they
bought
live
for
though?
me.
That's what
One of
'cause
those
I know
houses
everybody.
on the way to Berdan.
Because Carol Calano lived down there. Joe Egg, Larry Egg lived. Then Steve Van Erich. Then Campbell's put that brick house in. And then it was Gabe, Eddie, and Walter Grudas. The Grudases lived there. Then the next was I can't give him Torino.
I don't know how
was
long
in
the
my brother's
Recchios
class.
were there, but I started working for Carl and Joseph's. He had already sold it out to a cousin that was part of the Curcio family when he had retired, and that's where he was living then, down the street from, not far from Walt Hammett. Was that his name, Walt?
Walter married Lois Danson,
Right.
who lived
On my block.
on Chestnut.
Yeah.
Lois
Yeah.
grew up across the street from Jimmy Burns. You know where Burns' house is on Chestnut?
The only Burns I can think of is
Burns would have
Saddlebrook.
been 23. So across the street would have been 22.
Your memory's
Danson,
sharper.
the two Dances built the two houses, the two brick houses that are on Chestnut.
They're builders.
Well,
right?
Danson's
Those were
built a
built by
lot.
the Dances.
Shemer and Collin.
His name,
Yeah.
they were firemen, and his name was Lou Danson, I think. They had a daughter was Lois. Next door was Bob
Lois was a
Danson,
very bright
who had
woman.
Linda Danson, and then
I-
Joe Boscher, and then Buca, then Max Thiem.
I think
That's on one
So that
side.
would be
I can go
Joni
over there on
Thiem's-
Chestnut Street.
Joni Thiem's
Joni Thiem's father.
family. Or Joni Thiem was my father's age, and we went to school
Yes.
with her kids, which were Hank Voss
Yeah.
and
Number 114. Hank
that's
Voss.
what he was.
Yeah, he was in
114.
Boy Scouts.
I can't think of his sister's name.
Joni Thiem was the
No,
older girl.
Joni was his mother.
Oh, his
Joni,
mother, okay.
Joni was
I
Hank's
don't know.
mother.
I don't know it's after my time.
Actually, yeah, and it is right there, like the generation
And I was
before.
telling somebody chewed me out. I said, this picture was taken of, Slupos and stuff like that. And I said, that shot is from Dr. Fioretti's office. And I got my butt chewed out by
Which office?
one of
On
our
the top of
historians
chest,
who said, no, Fioretti is on Older Street. You don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
no, that wasn't his first office.
No, it's on like Central, right?
You're right.
He lived in the house he ran his practice out of the one on Older. But before that, he was on Chestnut Street
Right.
and Rochelle Avenue.
And the
Was the old dentist
stipulation,
office? That became
Yeah,
the dentist
it's
office?
today,
Okay.
yeah. But it was Dr. Fioretti, because I
Right.
had my tonsils removed.
and there was a
from his
stipulation, I
garage.
don't know whether I got this from hearing board members all sitting together or what, but when they got the office where, I was gonna say where it stands now,
Yeah.
the stipulation
on Main
was
Street.
only a Fioretti could live
Yeah.
upstairs. They couldn't rent it out.
Yeah.
If his office
Yeah.
was down there,
I wrote a bird to him once with a broken wing, and he actually put a splint on it, and sent me on my way.
he was a
So he's
sweetheart.
super nice guy.
He was a sweetheart of a guy.
Dr. Fioretti, yeah.
Yeah.
And Gara was too.
Ralph
He was a nice
Fioretti.
guy, but he's
Oh, yeah.
wandering eye. But
Who, Gary?
Gara,
Dr. Gara.
Dr. Gara, his son.
Not a good guy.
Victor went to school with us.
Not
His
a
son,
good
his
guy.
son went to school
I
with
should.
us.
Yeah, we graduated
But,
with Vic.
Yeah, Victor. Yeah.
He had x-rays, he had used x-rays
Yeah.
and would show him. One of the nurses told me this story. He would charge you for an x-ray
Yeah.
and they used old phone. He said, hey, how you, because nobody knows, when you look at an x-ray, whether they're current. And
Jean and Debbie,
Debbie and Debbie were, married to
Okay.
the Gara daughter.
which
My brother
was married to Debbie,
Okay.
Victor's
Debbie
sister.
Gara?
Yeah,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah.
Just
I knew I used to hang out
Woo.
at your house.
really
So,
digging
small
deep
world,
here
right?
today.
I can have a dentist question for Hal here. The dentist used to be upstairs on the corner of Railroad Avenue.
Not me.
Right, that was,
No,
I went to Gelrick.
well,
which
I
is
don't know if you might
where-
have known her because
yeah,
that was a
Dr.
butcher.
We called him the
Uh,
horse doctor.
I just said his name a few minutes ago.
he was
too.
awful. So
Dr.
Used to
something
Lenhart?
Hart. Lenhart.
okay.
Because I used to walk with Pam Nixon
I used to
when
sit
she
in
was a
a
kid
chair
and I'd
like
wait
this.
for her.
I look up those stairs and I start
Scary,
shaking.
isn't
That's
it?
scary, yeah. But somebody told me that he was like from Germany and he didn't even have a dentist license.
No
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I never
it's-
met
Doc-
him.
Dr. Gelrick was a little bit scary.
It certainly sounds believable, I'll
Yeah.
tell you that.
We went to Whittsburg down this end before it became Manila's office.
Okay, yeah.
I sat in Gelrick's chair, and I said, if you hurt me, I'm gonna punch you in the head.
And
And
he
I'd
would
sit
hurt
there
you.
like this.
Yeah.
He would
worked.
he was a big fat guy, and
Gelrick?
he would straddle you to pull your tooth.
My father was
The only thing-
Gelrick's godfather.
In that era, you only went to the dentist
Converted.
if you had pain. There's none of this cleaning teeth.
Yeah,
kind of
there's
thing.
none of
That
buying
was
your,
a three-family
buying your
house
dentist
back
a
then, too.
Mercedes.
Dr. Gelrick, when you went into his office,
Mm-hmm.
there was a walkway that went right on the side of
The
our
side,
property, and that went to his office. On the side, which is now the office door where Dr. Berger's people go, was a one-room apartment. Just, I don't even know if you could call it a studio, because I think there was one little door to go into a bathroom, but it was
Oh, you could do
kitchenette,
anything
bed,
in-
whatever. And then there was the apartment upstairs. Nicest people have, and a handy,
It's a two-bedroom upstairs.
yeah,
There
it's
was
a
no
nice apartment.
zoning.
No, it wasn't.
Nobody
But-
followed the rule. Do you remember? You don't remember, but when it was the sand pit,
I remember the sand pit.
okay. Did you ever go down there when it was a sand
I
pit?
remember when one of the
No,
fathers
when
broke
Ber-
his leg.
There was no Berdan. It was all woods.
It was, okay.
No North Drive, no
Okay.
South Drive, no
So
Slosher.
maybe I did know it before Berdan.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm telling you, that chief, who was the chief of police, Chief Powell, know the
Before
name?
mine.
Before our time.
That's,
Know the street, Powell, right?
yeah.
Named after the chief,
Mm-hmm.
who had a garden. His garden ran from South Drive to North Drive. There's a street that's two
Full loop.
blocks long. His garden, every kid in Rochelle Park at
Mm-hmm.
the time, I'll tell you a war story, every kid in the house carried salt and pepper shakers on their belt because we would steal Chief
So you took his
Powell's
vegetables.
tomatoes and we would have our lunch in the woods.
You know, Eddie, that doesn't surprise me of you.
No, every kid in Rochelle Park.
What, were you a kid in Rochelle Park?
I was, yeah.
Okay, just
I
want
was
to
part of that. And for dessert, we would steal his watermelon
Oh my gosh.
because he grew watermelon there. Now he never, You know, he was chief of police. He could do anything he wanted, and that's what went on in those days.
We were all afraid of the Quins growing up, so.
We weren't afraid of the Quins.
We were, so.
We weren't afraid of the
Nice
Quins.
guys. But I think that had to do with more Brian.
Yeah, I think so.
Brian.
Yeah, you never gave me a hard. I didn't even know
See-
you. You were probably out working by the time I was.
I was running a telephone company.
Yeah.
And by the time I really got to know any of them, I think I think one of the Todsies, I think John was working. The taxi was still around. I think he was working with.
Really? Yeah.
And I used to do Eddie's mother's hair 100 years ago. She
Gee.
was the sweetest lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not John. Your mother,
Jean, her name
Jean. I thought you said D.
John
Is
became
that
a
Jean?
doctor, right?
Well, Vincenza was her real name, but, you know, but nobody went
I
by
knew her as Mrs. Quinn
titles. Yeah.
with all those boys and one girl.
Yeah, Joan. It was Joan Quinn.
Tell me about the your family owned a business across the street from your house.
Well,
right?
my mother's family owned a business
Okay.
across the street. My grandfather always had a painting and wallpapering business, and he ran the property was multi-zoned. He ran his business from there. His big thing, though, that he was even more proud of than his business is every Sunday he would go, I think, to Patterson and pick up a priest to bring him to Rochelle Park to do mass.
All right.
So my father used to tell that story. He was very happy to get dressed and go up and go get the priest. My
Right.
mom's family owned, they used to call my grandparent, well, he'll tell you, they were all this high,
Yeah, short people
this wide.
and heavy set.
But
She inherited that.
my mother's family, I was told, was like the original welcome wagon. You came into town, if they heard you moved in, they had a basket with all little kind of goodies in that to start you
How
off.
many girls were in the family? I don't.
2 girls, 1 boy.
Just Bernie was
Bernie
the
was
only
the youngest,
boy. Okay.
and then Aunt Janet, who went to school
Oh,
with
Janet, okay.
Bowen's mom, Alice.
They all went to Sacred Heart.
Okay.
No,
No?
no. They ended up all in Midland.
Not Bernie.
Yeah.
He didn't graduate from Sacred Heart?
No, actually, he didn't graduate from here at all. By then, they had moved down the shore, and they opened their restaurant in the dock in the boat
Because
base.
he was in my brother Jerry's class. I remember your
And I've got a-
uncle from for
From
years.
way back.
And then I met him
In
later on,
Scouts
like
again.
in Boy Scouts. He was
But-
in Tom's River.
They had a gas station, hardware
Yes, it
store,
was a gas station
anything.
first, and it became a hardware
People
store.
said if you wanted something, you just went in, you could look around, you'd never be able to find it. You asked my
always
grandfather
had to
where
say
it was.
he knew where it was.
He'd say, come back in a half hour, and he'd be there. He knew exactly, exactly where everything was in an overcrowded house. Go ahead.
Sounds like someone.
Sounds like my basement.
I've got 4 floors of house that my family's been in 100 years, and
Yeah.
nobody threw anything out. I just,
Yeah.
Still looking for Aunt Mary.
I already offered, said, if you need help, I'll be happy to carry
you know,
boxes down for you.
I think I finally located the boxes. Hal and I went up to one room, and in the corner there's a bunch that say photos, but it's got to come out and I have to look through. And I said,
Sure.
somewhere. My father kept saying, there's a picture up there of Mrs. Jones in a canoe on Rochelle Avenue
yeah.
at one of the 100-year floods that happens every 5 years. But, yeah.
I'd love that. I'd love to see those. So.
But we had, you'd have to see when we clear it a little more.
No
But,
problem, man.
but it's a nice old house. I love it. It's
Yeah.
old.
I said, if I ever hit the lottery and I had a lot of money,
I would love to
pay to
redo
have
it
your
the way
front,
that front
put back
was.
the way it was.
I love that. I know that
With the columns?
No, I had like
It
a
was-
A porch
balcony
or
on
something
it.
upstairs?
it's,
Porch upstairs or?
Yeah, a balcony.
well, there was
Balcony?
a balcony
Yeah.
type. I don't know, I wasn't actually able to walk out
Yeah, it
onto
looked like a
it.
fake one or something, decorative one. I shouldn't say fake.
The old fake house. But the bottom
Probably
had a
like the-
porch. And then I don't know who enclosed the porch. I think my grandfather enclosed it.
Close it in.
And the insulation in the underneath of the porch, it had to be taken off because the wood was rotting. The underneath was all like Dick Tracy. They were old comics,
Oh, yeah.
and they only. I mean, now they might have some value. Nobody
new
thought
stuff,
back
huh?
then it was no, nothing new, nothing new.
No, I mean relative to.
There's a picture you'll enjoy. But they said if you came into the town and if you couldn't find anything right away with my grandfather, he'd send
Do
you
it.
to the back to the house, and my grandmother would make you something to eat.
Okay.
That was my uncle and my mom and her sister. But It's just the way the town was back then. Everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody sat and had a meal with everybody. Everybody was friendly. I'll find you a picture of the house
Well,
somewhere.
you
You've seen
mentioned
the front.
Grandma
Yeah,
Jones.
it's on the site.
You know, we would
Love that lady.
go with Johnny Conlon and Gene Alvarez. We would go
Gene Alvarez. Oh, we were just
We
talking
would-
about them to friends the other day.
to the railroad. We used to play in where Route 80 is today.
Right.
On the railroad cars. We would play tag there. And you'd play from car to car, and the older guys could go track to track. I never did that because I was afraid I would not make it across.
We've got a friend
Like
in
it's a-
Florida who's down in Naples now.
But that's what, there were hundreds of coal cars down there.
Oh, yeah.
And coal piles.
And it's all along the
Piles
tracks
of
where a lot
coal,
of the
because the
thorium is
railroad
found.
could not climb the mountains in the wintertime because the
And
ice
that's where
would
they
slip.
stored-
They couldn't get up the hill at Sparta
Okay.
and Franklin and those towns. It's called Beaver Lake on the railroad. And they'd bring the coal up in the summertime and leave it in Saddlebrook. It was called Saddle River Township in those days.
Well, that
Or
red
Midland
barn,
Township.
that red barn that's there when you head north from Railroad Avenue, that's been there for all those years.
Around the
Yeah,
corner
the
of
firehouse.
the road.
Yeah, it's on the north.
On Salvador.
It's on the north
Yes, the original
east
firehouse.
side,
It's the
right?
firehouse
Yeah.
of Midland Township.
Because there's so much cool stuff here.
And that's still
We're
there.
dying to get into the house on the corner of Rochelle and the pictures that you've taken.
Me too.
The one on the corner of Essex.
Yes, yeah, I'd love to get in there also.
The Avery
I know,
House.
You ever get in, you call
I know
me.
someone who was in about a year ago.
Really?
Dominic Pizzuto. He was in there with somebody. I don't know how he got in there, and he was showing me pictures of it.
Maybe through the
He did it legally.
squirrel
He said. He
openings.
said he did it legally. So,
Illegally?
He did it
No,
legally.
legally.
Couple
Oh,
windows
really?
up.
but
That was Graham Avery's grandmother.
yes, Christina Holtz's father is good friends with him, and he's, keeping an eye on things. And
Christina's very good with
that
the
Jeff?
stuff. that
she's
they do.
fantastic.
She's great.
Yeah.
Graham Avery.
That's his daughter,
Jeff's
Rosie.
daughter.
His wife is
She's
Rosie
super into
Nappy,
history, so-
Rose Nappy that you and I went to school with. You
No,
remember
but
her
I'm
well.
friends with Jeff.
Right. He does clocks and antique shed. So he
Oh,
and Jeff.
his house. You been in his house?
Oh,
Phew. When you ever
I don't-
we
I
went to
don't
one
have
meeting
those.
there, when the hour comes around, the whole
you mean
house
her
just
father?
goes.
I love that clock.
You're
He's
talking
got
about
on
her
his
father?
lawn.
yes.
Yeah.
I heard it from Chestnut. I was walking my dog once on Chestnut Street, and I could hear all the bells going off in the house.
Well, he took me into the house, and he's got this monster clock on the wall that has the mechanism that actually controls the clock outside,
Okay, yeah.
which is just
A lot of
amazing.
steam valves and stuff like that,
Yeah.
gauges.
Yeah,
This
and
is
his
just-
garage in the
Beyond my
backyard.
knowledge.
And this wall is way changed, but this is just some of Hal's stuff.
Okay.
It's on our walls. We're all thermometers and
Yeah.
Yeah.
clocks, and all the clocks are right twice a day. But
Does it wind them?
They're
well, we've got
electric.
one
They're
cuckoo
electric.
clock that's phenomenal, but I just pulled you out something else though.
Did you graduate 73
This
also?
is
I'm sorry.
You were the same. You graduated in 73,
That's
same as
the
us,
house we
right?
had.
that's
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Well, you were 73. Oh, you were.
I was not here, but I was 67. I was
Okay.
born in 49.
You're just a couple years older. That's all. But you were from this area too?
The
No, I
concrete,
grew up in Demarest in
Actually,
Oh,
her
okay.
family actually owned
Arcola.
Arcola.
Oh, okay. We passed the other.
Yeah.
That was the front of
the fence is still there.
Yes,
Oh,
the
it's
the
deteriorated, but the concrete and
concrete
a couple
fence
of the
is still
bars
there.
are still there.
I'll tell you, you're going to edit this, right?
Of course.
No, no.
Okay, so 2 years ago or last year, when the PSE&G were doing all
The
the
new
stuff, and
zoning
you couldn't get
inspector?
down. You couldn't get down Rochelle
Rochelle Avenue,
Avenue,
yes, yeah.
even on Sundays, despite blue laws.
Because they were putting in the telephone pole.
The guy that comes in landscapes who parks a truck in the back, there is nowhere you can't park on Rochelle Avenue.
Right.
So he couldn't get in to do our lawn. We got a notice that the lawn was a little better than 3 inches, and if we didn't get
From the
rid of it
town?
in
The
10
new
days,
zoning
the new
inspector.
zoning is when they
Yeah.
just hired him.
Yeah.
I think he started,
And I'm
what,
glad
May-
he's doing his job. That's great.
Yeah.
May of
but
23, he started.
It's overkill sometimes.
But it wasn't the
Wrote
first. No, we got another
190
notice
something.
after it.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, if the landscaper can't get there,
Yeah.
what
What
are
can
they
you do?
supposed to do? And then they told us that the hedges had to be so far off the sidewalk. The
The
concrete,
sidewalk wasn't there.
You're
the
running.
concrete pillars were there in
1877.
1877, right where they are now.
They moved the
I-
sidewalk to you.
Yeah, they moved the sidewalk closer to
Yeah.
us, not our fault.
Yeah.
That's your
And I mean, really,
your
if you want,
grandfather.
oh,
You don't have to
you
worry
would
about
think.
the town.
you would think so. I mean, but even like when I had the
Did you get a notice from the inspector?
two of them.
Did you tell him to stick it?
No, I very
We were
politely
nicer than that.
explained that, I had
Yeah.
someone coming as soon as I could. They couldn't get down there with the
Should've been
PSC&G
grandfathered.
trucks. But the other thing too is like we'll get calls from next door neighbors
They
about
don't
your
enforce-
trees are leaning on our fence. I
It's
said,
all
your
BS.
fence is on my property.
I had
They haven't bothered me again.
Yeah.
I had dandelions on the property I bought
I
next
have to
door.
like dandelions.
No. They were 5 feet tall.
Don't they call them sunflowers? I'm
They were
sorry.
used as dandelion. The town didn't care about it.
You know what?
Need to
It
get
depends
yourself
on
one
who's
weird-
in and who
Depends
gets
on
upset and
who
who's
harasses
complaining.
you.
Right.
There's several houses in town that don't have any sidewalks, like
Yeah.
BB's, and every time a new cop comes on the force, they ticket them for not shoveling their walk. There's no sidewalk there, it's just grass.
Right.
So,
Well, there's also no curbs.
Yeah.
The road
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, for the most part, like the neighbors next door are great. And I mean, you have dogs too. You walk them.
not anymore,
No
but
more,
yeah.
the dog died, right?
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Big
So
white one,
anyway,
right?
Red
We
guy,
have-
yeah. Red pit bull, yeah.
My hedges in the front were loaded with poison ivy.
Yeah.
A year ago. And I had the landscaper come to trim them back, but it was like the day before he came. And this woman from next door, the condos aren't allowed to walk their dogs on the property. So a
Okay.
lot of times we see some of the people in the back of Peter's yard, Peter
Mm-hmm.
Berger, and he'll yell, "That's private property." But
Yeah. Get the whole
but-
park, go down the park.
go down the park, exactly. So the one day I'm coming in and I'm pulling the driveway, and there's a woman here with her dog, and she's picking up his poop, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm going, "Excuse me," real snotty. She yells over to me, "I'm picking it up. I'm not leaving." I said, "Okay, I just want to let you know that the hedges you're leaning on there, that's all poison ivy. Have a good day." I was just trying to give her a warning, and she was
Yeah.
literally right into this
When I went
poison
and I bought
ivy.
the red flags for the poison,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't put any poison down, but I put the flags up
Yeah.
just to keep them away.
But moreover, because it really is loaded with poison ivy, even if the dogs brush up, and the poison ivy is actually started off of a tree on their property, but, we pull back what we can. But it's just funny, I think to myself, what would my grandfather have
Oh,
done,
so where it is now?
But it wouldn't have been that way. A neighbor would have come over, would have whatever, it would have been a whole different story. But
Yeah.
a lot of people just have everything, and yet there still are a lot of people who've been here like for 100 years. And
I can tell you right now, my block right now is the best it's ever been. We got rid of 1 or 2 bums. And now everybody really are very nice. They get along with each other.
What
every
street are you
nationality.
actually on?
West Oldest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm next to Tom McDermott's house. The old
He's
township
gone now.
clerk.
Yeah.
So
I remember
Peter
Irene.
Rimlinger,
Irene, yeah.
Little Irene, man, she
Carter
didn't forget
across the street.
anything.
No, what's that?
Carter's across the street.
No, it was before my time then.
Jimmy Carter, Donnie Carter, they
Not
gone?
when I was living there.
Okay.
So I moved in '58. So.
Across from you is La Scala.
No.
Was that it?
Are you thinking of Oldest or West Oldest?
No,
Oldest.
across the street from you.
Okay.
The newer house,
The newer house.
the brick house, whatever it is,
That was Finks.
But-
Finks.
2 or 3, but well, it used to be La Scala.
Okay.
Peter La Scala lived there.
Okay. Oh, no,
Irene Lambert.
Okay.
Lamberts.
Yeah, they
Where
were
were the
before my
Holts?
Before your time.
What? Holtz?
Holtz.
Yeah, they lived a couple houses down
Houses
from me.
down
So,
from you?
yeah, and I still talk to Anne Marie every once in a while.
Yes, Anne Marie.
Yeah,
She's
nice
she's
person.
good people. Her father was a sweetheart.
Yeah,
Nice guy.
yeah, he's a shame. So,
Randy Holt.
yeah, he was a fixture at the gas station. So, oh,
Dancer
Oh
was
man,
on
you
the
said that. I
corner,
just
too.
thought Deziak
Two
and,
dances, yeah.
and Whitey.
I just remember the brick house they put in there.
There was a dance on the corner, and there was another dancing halfway down the block. He was the builder, I think. So, oh yeah,
There was Pete Danson and
And Dittis was on your block.
it is, yes. Henry
isn't Tibbs still
Matuszewski.
there?
No, he passed away.
No, they're gone.
The,
Not the son.
Georgie
the son.
I'm
Dittis
thinking the
moved
son.
away.
He moved
he was a
back after his
fireman,
father
wasn't
died.
he?
Yeah, he was chief
Yeah.
of Flint
George?
Park.
Yeah, he rides a Harley.
Okay.
and
He was the
above.
superintendent of the at the telephone company.
The father was, yeah.
Super-
The son,
what was his-
the
the
son was actually
superintendent
around.
The plant department. I don't remember his title.
Henry's still around though. He's
Yeah, he's in the
He's
fire
fine.
department still. So I'm gonna do an interview with Pete Donatello and Henry probably, and a couple other people. So I'm doing all people from, it seems to be the class of '73. So
Yeah, we don't move very far.
no.
He did a full circle,
Yeah.
so.
I did what?
You did a full circle, we didn't really move very far.
Hey, it's tough to get out of this town. Once you get in here, you're stuck for life.
We also had Walter
Nice
Johnson, who
little
would
town.
probably remember a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know what just went through my head? Okay.
No, Walter's a nutcase. One of my Eagle
He's a
Scouts.
sweet nutcase. He had fun rowing that canoe up there, didn't
Did he talk about his sphagnum moss?
No, he used to come and sit with my father for
Oh,
hours.
he was a.
Actually, the last time I saw him was the day Hal was moving in. He brought
An
bunches
eggplant or
of
something?
eggplant or
Oh, you know
zucchinis.
Walter, huh?
I knew his brother Bob.
His brother Bob was
He
friends
graduated with us in
with us.
'73.
What was the last name?
Bob Johnson.
Johnson.
Oh, Bob John. Yeah, I know Bob.
That,
Yeah.
That's the father.
No,
Okay.
the father might have also been Bob.
Yeah,
but
the father was Bob.
What?
I
They
didn't
were
know.
nice
was
people.
I didn't know.
his
It
parents.
was
There
his younger
was a
brother.
younger Bob.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was our
Yeah,
age.
That's
I've
after
seen
my
him
time.
probably since, in our 20s.
Walter used to hang around,
50.
not hang around.
Yeah.
This is not recorded.
Everything's
Yes, it
recorded.
is.
He would like buddy up to Kevin, like, oh Kevin, you know, kind of very,
Very,
affectionate,
very
kid,
friendly guy, but
but
and
weird.
he's very big.
He just got married, you know.
Yes. And,
Okay.
He never came back around after I met him that first
well,
time.
you guys were moving in, you know, but he's very big at the Audubon Society. He was very friendly with him up there because whenever my father would go up and do the bees, we would do the bee seminar up there and that, he'd be there, especially when they did something, a harvest thing. They did a cider press and all that in the town. It was fun.
His Eagle project was to clean up the part behind here, the woods here. He was supposed to put a nature trail in. Could have been an excellent project. Didn't turn out to be that way.
Okay.
Walter put up paper, cardboard birdhouses instead of wooden birdhouses like he was supposed to.
He put bat houses.
So you
up,
know
I
what
think,
happens
by
when it rains?
back of our property
They fell
one
apart.
time.
The nature trail, there's no
neighbors put
nature
those up.
trail here today. Remember I had a gateway here that said nature trail?
And
And
remember,
Troop 114, big wooden thing, I have a piece of it still left that says, but that was supposed to be his Eagle project. The only person that helped him on his Eagle project was his father. You know, usually
was
it's a
a bit of a-
community
he was-
thing
he was
with
a bit
maybe
of a
10 or
loner.
15 kids.
Right.
He picked it on a hot summer Sunday, nobody showed up,
oh,
so it was a disaster.
that is a shame.
Yep.
He's always been very nice. He's always been very polite.
Oh, yeah.
He was very
He's a
good. Like when my
kid.
father couldn't get out, he came to visit him. He would bring him all his Our, because we didn't get the Our Town anymore, so he would bring my father a stack of Our Town, and my father would give him a bunch of bee magazines. And
Yeah, we used to buy honey from your dad.
yeah, I kept it going for a year, but it's hard work
I said, I went by
for
your
a
house. I
woman
saw
to
all
do
the
alone.
bee things in the garbage pails outside. I was like, I was thinking eBay, I could sell those.
No, you know what it was? The ones that got thrown out when we were
Yeah.
getting rid of them, they had gotten a varroa mite.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, they were slimy.
Yeah.
So to clean them down, you're destroying the whole thing. That we would have had to take into what was the old Cook College,
Yeah.
where my father and my son both got their certifications.
There was a guy on Central who was selling honey
Still
for a
is.
while.
Still
Well,
Sharif,
I thought
my
he'd
father
stopped
mentored
doing
him.
it.
No.
Not in
Sharif,
Hackensack. In
my father
Sharif.
mentored Sharif.
Sharif built. He's the guy who built the addition on the house last year. Super
He
nice
was
guy.
the last person my father mentored before my
Okay.
father passed
I'll
away.
talk to him. I saw him about 3 days ago, so he's a super nice guy.
He
He's
actually did some work for me. He fixed
Fixed the window up in the
we were
attic.
all plaster. He
Yeah.
fixed a window. We came back from Florida and
All right.
we're driving in after 10 days in Florida, and I said, "Looks like the attic window's open," and it was, but it was still the old rope and
Right.
pulleys, and
Yeah.
it snapped. But he
Right.
fixed that. But he also going up in the house.
Plaster
It's all
started
plaster. The
Yeah.
plaster started to bow, so he and another guy came in and they took it
Him
down.
and what's the guy? They're all Albanian.
Probably.
Yeah, nice people.
Very nice, very
Yeah.
neat workers. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of work that needs to be done in that house.
Okay.
And
Yeah, he's also a shop teacher at Hackensack
Yes,
High
he
School.
is.
So,
yeah, I said he sat many times with my father.
yeah.
He was
Oh,
a good guy.
He's in love with my granddaughter. So and he has 5 boys, and he was always bringing them over our house to play with my granddaughter. So
Have you been
Did you-
over to
did
his
you go to
property?
Hackensack?
I've only been in his driveway, but it's a beautiful house, an old
Beautiful
Dutch colonial.
house. His
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
big old Dutch colonial, and he's got all his bees set up in the back.
Yeah.
He's meticulous with them. It's
Yeah, Every time he comes over, he brings a bottle of honey or honey sticks.
Yeah, he's a good guy, really
Yes,
good
yeah,
guy.
real nice guy.
And he actually, I think, is responsible. I think also Mr. Towns from Hackensack.
Yeah.
I believe they're responsible for getting the apiary group
Oh, really?
into the high school.
Okay.
But they've
He's
got a couple
also
of
good friends
others,
with Mr. Lotz. He's from town. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Did you go to Hackensack?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Same.
We
did
went
you,
all through Sacred Heart. We
did you
went-
take shop?
I took auto mechanics. I didn't take shop.
Okay.
So then you
Okay,
had
you-
Bob.
I had lots twice. Yeah.
Okay.
With,
The shop teacher that was there was a guy named Clayton Coffin.
No, way before our
Okay.
time, probably.
Who was
That's a
on
terrible
the
name.
executive board of
Yeah.
the, he was on the executive board of the Boy Scout Council in
Okay.
Hackensack at the time. It was there before they moved to Oakland.
And then we had Peter Farady's
Right, his
brother
brother
was
was
a
the
Okay.
teacher
metal shop,
there.
maybe, or he did something in the shop.
One of the shops
Yeah.
there. Mr. Billings? No, he was history.
Oh yeah, the Lots kid took over, didn't he, the shop?
I'm not
Was it the
sure.
mechanic guy in
No,
Hackensack?
Wilbur Lotz's son Bob was the
Bob
shop
was the shop.
mechanics
Mechanic shop,
teacher.
okay.
In
over in
fact, I
Hackensack.
interviewed Mr. Lotz's father,
Mhm.
and he was 105 years old, and I had to postpone it a week. I was so nervous.
He lived on
that was going to be a
He
week
was
too
a
late.
good guy.
And
He lived on
he passed away
Catherine,
about a
right?
month after I was in
But
it.
they're related to his wife's family, I should say, are related to Frankie Diamondo.
Okay, yeah, Frank.
Because
Yeah.
Frankie's mom and I
Yeah,
think
she's a nice
Gail's
woman.
mother were sisters or cousins or something.
Parkway, right?
But nobody moved. I mean, nobody moves from this area. Where
They're
We
from,
just saw Frank.
they're from Lodi
just saw
Street,
Frankie.
aren't
Frank
they?
was party.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lodi Street in Hackensack.
Lodi and Hackensack.
Yeah, I don't
Actually,
know her
Frank's got a
maiden-
house
He's good
somewhere
friends
in
know
with
her
town.
Eddie
maiden
O'Hara.
I don't know her
Uh,
maiden
I know
name.
Eddie.
Yeah, he grew up in the. He just passed
Then
away
we got
about
a
2 years.
Party
Alice's
that we went
maiden
to
name.
Up in Rockland County.
Her married name was Diramundo.
Alice Aiello, alias Aiello, something like
okay.
that. You're really gonna pick the brains there. But,
Yeah, Frankie helped build this building, by the way.
Frankie built my first wall unit in my house. He was very good with his hands.
It was
Carpenter
Lotion
was.
Diramundo was the name of the company.
You know who was who did I run it by? Oh, were you able to get a hold of?
You don't want to came in, one woman who was
Shirley Lauderman.
You know, she talked to me once or twice, and then I haven't heard back from her. So, but I'll just.
She's a
I'll try
little
and
bit
get
up
touch
there
with
in age. Her daughter,
Okay.
her ex-son-in-law is a fireman.
her. Yeah.
Her daughter-in-law lives down in the Lovell section, I believe.
All right.
They've got a son. You remember Debbie Sella?
Yeah, I remember the seller.
All right, it's
Oh,
Debbie's
I-
aunt.
That was,
Yeah. it's,
Debbie's mother and Shirley Lauderman
The
were
one was a cop, right? That seller?
no,
No.
Oak
Okay.
different
Street.
seller. Oak Street, end of Oak Street.
Okay. All right.
Sharon, Harold wasn't he a scout? Harold Sella and okay.
not when I.
Was he big with the record, the little newspapers, maybe? I think I might have taken over his route, maybe.
Possibly.
On the right hand side going down.
On the right hand side,
Okay.
all the way going down, across the street, were Shirley, I'm trying to think what her Maroney.
Okay.
And they lived next door, I think, to Sprague's.
Yes.
Not, yeah, Colette Sprague.
Yeah.
The other Sprague's were there too, right? Up the street more?
Darryl and Darryl.
No, Darrell's Colette's brother.
Colette's brother,
Was
yes,
Colette's brother.
Yeah, I was in school with them until I got left back. I was in her class.
Then you get to go in our class, the
I
good
was
class.
such a lucky person.
There you
Yes.
go.
I got to get sister. What was her name? Who was our first grade teacher?
First grade, Sister
Rose.
Regina.
I Sister Rose twice.
Sister Rose, sixth grade. I'll tell a story about that. She scared the daylights out of me. I was talking and she did this
Oh yeah.
and like knocked the wind right out of me.
I still have mental issues from her, so.
Okay, so I'll, this,
Is there
whatever.
anything
You
else
were
you want to
gonna
talk
edit
about?
this.
I'll end this soon because if there's something else you want to
I
tell us
can't,
about.
other than, I mean, remembering the big news in Rochelle Park, one of the first $1 million winners on the lottery.
Oh really?
Was it me?
No, it wasn't. It was the TV,
Wasn't
Ernie's
me either.
Repair Shop.
Oh, really?
Ernie's TV Repair Shop. And then
No
he,
wonder he's not there anymore.
and then he moved down the shore.
Yeah.
But like
He's
that was a
there for
big thing to
years.
know that. And then you had the Rakuses who were upstairs,
Ronnie
and they
Rakus?
ended up. Well, I knew Mr. Gus Rakus and his wife, and they
Okay.
took care of Flossie Jones, when she got older, and she left the house to them. The house, I don't know that we have. I don't think there's any pictures of the inside of the house, but oh man, this house was unique. You would, when you went in from Rochelle Avenue, it was a circular drive and all stone lined, and you remember that? Coming from Rochelle Avenue to Mrs. Jones's. You went in a little bit of walkway, and there was a slate,
On your side of the street?
and her pump was there, her well.
Yes.
And then it went into like a big Florida room, all glass
Is it
enclosed.
sunken down a little bit?
Then it sunk down to
Yeah,
a
okay.
sunken living room. Then you came back up to a level that had, I'm not sure, may have been a bedroom.
Yeah.
Then up another level, she had the kitchen, big wooden shutters that she would feed squirrels. They would
Yeah.
come up, they never came in the house that I know. And she would feed the squirrels right on the board. And then she had a bedroom that was up the stairs off the side of it. But
Give me a cross-reference on Rochelle Avenue.
right now, right.
It was a big
across-
driveway that went in.
Yeah.
When you were going by there, it was a big driveway that went in.
Where?
To the right.
Alino's driveway next to us
Yeah.
went down, and that's,
And then right
and
past
then
that,
right past it, there was like a stone.
like
By
where the,
Grandma
where the,
Jones?
where the
Yeah, her
condos
house,
are now.
yes, her
Oh,
house.
Be
And
to the
it
right
was
of her
yes, I
house.
remember that.
To the right of her house.
With
Okay,
the
when you
con-
said some other name, you threw me. I'm going.
Where the
Awakens.
condos are.
Oh,
Because
they took
in-
over Jones's?
They inherited it from Mrs. Ray.
Oh, okay, now.
She had no one
that
to
makes
leave
sense
it
then,
to.
It
okay.
was 12
I
acres
thought you were talking
between
another place.
my house and Jones's house.
When they knocked it down, I actually got the job to take all the phone wires out. So I went there with my camera and I spent about 3 hours photographing inside all the houses. And then someone robbed my house and stole my computer with all the pictures on it. So I'm still looking for it. I'm hoping I have a disc somewhere. But
As,
I know
as
Mickey
a phone
used to
guy,
do a
I
lot
put
of
the
work
phones in
Florida.
Yeah, said of their
Michael's
dad.
house, Norm Michael's house.
Oh, that'd be
And I went to
gorgeous.
snake, because I couldn't snake the wire. And I said, oh, here's a piece of pipe goes right there. So I took the fitting off it. The gas, it was a gas fixture.
Gas
And the
coming out.
gas came out. I'm going, ooh, close
Better
that
close
up.
that
right
up.
away.
Yeah. I'm
They
leaving.
had, in the attic,
At the copper tub.
1/3, I told you about
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
a copper tub the size of this table, 1/3 the size of this
Wow.
table, in the attic.
Hammered copper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every morning, Mike
I'd like to see that.
would go up, fill it up with water, because I said, what the hell is the
Was
bathtub
it-
doing up there?
Oh, was that their
Use it for
water flow
pressure?
for the house?
Water pressure?
Water would flow gravity into the spigots.
Okay.
So you didn't have to pump the water.
We're just watching something on TV the
Yeah.
other day about that when
That's
that was how it had
still
to be
there in the
done.
house in the attic.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the windows are open.
Well,
God
no,
knows
they
what
fixed
birds
it.
are in there.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
they fixed
closed
the fascia
now.
boards and they closed the window about 3 weeks ago. 4
But
weeks
it's,
ago.
for,
It
you
was
know,
open for years.
Oh, yeah.
and then closed for a
Oh,
month or
that
two, and
top
then
one
open
over
again.
The-
over
in the,
porch.
in the
Always
attic.
is open.
His
Yeah.
job every morning before he went to school was to fill up the tub. It was this size though, all copper. Imagine what that had to cost, a copper, a thick, heavy-duty copper, which looks like it's hammered into shape. And it was, I said, what the hell is it? I don't know, why would anybody use a bathtub in the attic? But it was a water supply, because the house was built, what, 1890, something like that?
I don't think it's as old as my house.
How old is your house?
1877, and I think it's
Well, that
a
would be
little
younger
after.
than your house, so
I don't-
1890
as I said,
would
I
be
don't- right.
in that era. But they had a pump in the attic to get the water.
Do you read?
Did your house have a pump?
We had
Yeah,
we had a
obviously.
pump.
Yeah.
We had a not when we were there. No, by the time we were there, but we had the outside pump. We didn't
Hackensack
have
Water Company came in.
we didn't have Hackensack water until 1994.
Really?
Really, we had our pump until
Oh, I mean, Hackensack
we
Water
got our
Company was
water
there way
tested
before that.
every single year. It was
Yeah.
fine, and I'm sure it's the same level it was the year before, but the level permissible levels must have come down because when the swim club got the notice that they're
They
right,
they
and
use
you're all
natural
we're all in
water
the same
there.
aquifer, so it doesn't matter how deep your well is.
The water club, the swim club, as you refer to it, was the disposal plant
I know that
with a drying pit.
Yeah.
The concrete,
the four things, the
Was-
skating ring, the
5 concrete
oh, I only
pads
remember the 4
that
pads.
they used
Yeah.
to turn the valve, and all the sewage would
We
drain.
never smelt it. I think you asked
I
me
had
that
asked you once
once.
about that, yeah.
Never
smelled
smelled
that.
They
But I do-
drained it and dried it. The urine went into the Saddle River
Yep.
to the
And I remember
family
that
swimming
concrete,
hole
there was a
at the
big
railroad
concrete.
tracks.
Yeah.
Was they had family swimming was at the railroad tracks. We as kids swam in the river from the red
Red Tide. No.
the red
Red
mill.
Mill. Red Mill.
Red Mill all the way down. The whole river had curves in it. Every curve had a name, and I can remember one was called Whitey's, one was called Blackie's, one was called Torches. Every curve had a name, so if I was gonna go swimming, wouldn't go
Tell them
with,
where you're going.
wouldn't go with girls weren't allowed. I never remember any girls swimming, they probably did, but I don't know about it. But all the guys would swim in the Saddle River,
Janet Parker's father
and the water was crystal
and my
clear.
aunt went to school together. She might have a tremendous amount of
I was talking to her the
story.
other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
He would come over all the time and talk to my dad too.
Okay.
But my father, and you would go skating on the river all winter
Mhm.
long. But
Yeah.
those were great. But do you remember the Friary?
Sure.
Okay.
We mean
Do
the
you
old
as a
hotel
kid-
next.
The Red Rock Apartments.
I remember
Rock.
when I first moved to town, we had an Easter egg hunt there, and I remember getting locked out. I didn't get any Easter eggs, so but I remember the old house and like being amazed.
Gorgeous old house.
I'm trying to get in touch
Wonderful
with the
house.
Sacred
Porch
Heart
all
to see if they
around.
have any old pictures of it.
They have
But
they used to
they-
print the
They
friary.
weren't Sacred Heart.
Wasn't it Sacred Heart had used it for their priests?
I do not believe they were sacred. I do not
They were
believe they were
priests of
Sacred Heart
some-
friars.
They
were
were in
somewhere
a,
else.
a
They
paper
were
called the Friar.
The Friars, the Friar
Okay.
magazine.
Before that, two
Yeah.
young girls lived there. I don't know their names, but I remember all the guys went to Midland School, parked there. The seesaws were there, and the monkey bars and all that.
Okay.
We used to hang out there. Should say that. And
You
look at the
recorded-
girls through their windows. You know, some guys had binoculars.
Why doesn't
but
that surprise
the
me?
I
girls
don't
would.
know, does Peeping Tom have a statute of limitation?
I don't know.
Like you say.
I don't turn out.
The old
But-
church.
But everybody did that because I don't know I can't remember the girl's name, but before it was the Friary, and before that
It
it
was
was
the Friary.
Red Rock Apartments.
now
And what year
it's-
did that probably get knocked down? Or
I remember
gotta be
going
mid-60s.
through
Really
to
beautiful
open a
home,
door
yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
And he laughed at me when I said it the other day. They had gotten locked out, and there was two large glass on each side of the door, and they opened like a jalousie.
Yeah.
And I had to go in to unlock the door for them. And he said, "Sure, Chapano, you fit."
Did I say that?
Yes, you
I'm
did.
a terrible
Yeah,
person.
You are. You are.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's all right. I introduced Kevin to Hal on the phone last night, and I said, "You two will get along great because you're both sarcastic." So,
If you're interested in talking to Mickey Alino,
Yeah.
we're still, he's not home now, he's down in Florida,
Should be
in
in,
Sanibel. But
Yeah, if you talk to him, we even do a Zoom or
Yeah, I
something.
think
so-
we'll
I'll reach out to
Sure.
him.
That'd be
What
great.
was the
Yeah,
name
he's
of the
over
people
80 and
before?
he had a stroke,
Yeah.
doesn't hear
The
well.
Alina-
He was a
Is
teacher
it
there when I went.
Shell's?
You know, when I
Yeah,
went
he was
to
my
Sacred
English
Heart, he was a
Dr.
teacher.
Joe and
So.
his wife.
You know, those vocabulary lists he used to give you every week.
No.
You had to learn 100 words.
But if you friend
Yeah.
him, and he will friend anybody,
Okay.
he comes up like he just came up with something on St. Patrick's Day, I think it
Who's
was.
this, Mickey?
Mickey, somebody posted something, and he gives you this. He is very knowledgeable, not just on the town, but
An articulate
and
writer.
very articulate.
Yeah. Okay.
He speaks pretty good too, but he really gets everything chronologically
Okay.
beautifully.
I think he's on the historical group. You know, the collection
Probably
group. So,
is. He
yeah.
probably is.
Yeah, you know, I had a little different relationship with him because his father owned the house.
Yeah.
He'd come to work on the house in the summer. I'd paint it with him,
Okay.
you know, so we were closer until the day I called him Mickey in class.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh, didn't cut it.
I had a similar
Couldn't cut
experience
it.
with Mr. Lewison in high school, but that was another story. You know, Eddie Church too is around, and he.
Yeah, I'd written him, and I talked to him, and I also had written
I
the
just
English
saw
teacher.
it.
Remember the English teacher from Hackensack that was really tough? He lived on the
Emery?
Flanagan.
Flanagan. I wrote him.
Roger
Never
Flanagan.
heard
Roger
of his.
Flanagan.
Was he a teacher there? Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
lives in. I actually I fixed his phones in Wycliffe Lake back about
Oh, yeah?
40 years ago, and I'd written him. He never
Good
wrote back
kid.
to me. So,
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy. But he was the toughest English teacher. Him and Mrs. Pulaski.
Pulaski.
They were tough.
Mickey still lives in Maywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sheamer, if you ever get in touch with Sheamer, I'd love to talk
Ricky
to him.
Sheamer?
Yeah. Because, you know, I mentioned him once, because I bet you he's got pictures of, you know, from the town.
You sent him the pictures of my house
Didn't Shima work for
that
the
Mickey
town,
gave
didn't
us?
he?
Well, he was a
Sheamer
builder. His
Cullen.
father was a builder, and he took,
Oh, that's
took
where
the
I know
building
him from,
over.
okay.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, you know what? I can get
He
hold of
graduated
his
73
sister,
also.
and
I remember his sister. Yeah, she was.
Dick Shima, his name was, right?
Yeah.
Dick Sheamer was
she was
Ricky's
nice.
father.
Builder, okay.
Well, yeah, but
He
he
built
took
the house
over the.
across the street from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
they built the same
built
house
most of-
wherever they built.
They built most of this
It was the
town,
same.
Schindler and
Yeah.
Colling, and
Yeah.
Then he built a house in,
Dick
They
took
lived
over.
on Marinas too.
All right.
The Shaman, Dick Shaman lived on Marinas.
I'm gonna end this then, so I think we got plenty of information, so I appreciate you guys telling us so
Yeah.
much.
Well, I don't know how much of it was worth anything. It's all to me kind of.